Top 7 Jefferson Nickel Coins Worth Big Money. Welcome. Today, we're exploring 7 of the most valuable Jefferson 5-cent nickel coins from the United States of America, United States. In this video, we'll discuss their current market values, highlight notable error coins, and explain the specific conditions that make certain Jefferson nickels extremely rare. This includes silver content nickels, unique finishes, and different color shades that have become major players in the coin collector and investor world. These rare treasures are not just pieces of history. They are also among the most valuable coins collectors are actively hunting today. So, whether you're a coin enthusiast or someone who appreciates the beauty and significance of American currency, this video is made for you. Backhand index pointing right. Let's get started with the first coin. Magnifying, glass tilted left money bag. The story of the 1974 no-mint mark Jefferson Nickel begins not with a roar, but with a quiet whisper, a whisper carried by everyday commerce, pocket change, and the humble clink of 5 cents passing from hand to hand. In 1974, America was a nation of change, still grappling with economic shifts, cultural transitions, and new ideas about identity and progress. Into this landscape walked a coin that many people barely noticed at the time. Yet now, decades later, carries with it deep mystery, emotional resonance, and sometimes unimaginable value for those who understand its hidden strength. Jefferson, one of the great architects of early America, graces the obverse of the nickel with a calm, thoughtful expression that belies the extraordinary potential of even the most ordinary coins. Thomas Jefferson was a man of vision, one who believed in exploration, liberty, and the pursuit of knowledge. It seems fitting that his face decorates a coin that hides so many layers of possibility beneath its modest surface. The 1974 no-mint mark nickel went into circulation like any other coin, but some of its secrets only became evident years later. At the Philadelphia Mint, where these coins were struck without a mint mark, presses thundered night and day. Millions of nickels were produced to keep up with an economy that still relied heavily on physical cash. Visitors and workers alike would see stacks of new Jefferson nickels emerge, shiny and untouched, ready for wallets and coin trays across the nation. Most of these coins fulfilled their purpose simply. They circulated, they bought candy and stamps, they were spent without a second thought. Yet history has a way of elevating the ordinary into something extraordinary. As the decades passed and collectors began to look more closely at coins from the 1970s, certain 1974 nickels started to draw attention. Some pieces showcased unusually strong details, sharp lines, crisp letters, and a brilliance of surface that seemed almost impossible for a nickel that was supposed to be spent and forgotten. These rare survivors, in immaculate condition, began to command admiration and attention. Collectors quickly realized that condition matters more than age when it comes to coins like this. A flawless 1974 no-mint mark nickel, untouched by circulation, can appear almost as it did the moment it left the Philadelphia Mint. These pristine survivors are increasingly rare as time marches on and most coins get worn, scratched, and rubbed down. When someone discovers a nickel that still holds its original luster, it feels like unearthing a tiny time capsule, an unspoiled fragment of American history. But beyond condition, there are whispers, stories that tease the imagination about this coin's hidden potential. Some believe that unusual planchet variations, unexpected strikes, or rare minting anomalies might exist among the 1974 no-mint mark nickels. In the world of coin collecting, such irregularities can transform a humble nickel into a prized treasure. A slight misalignment here, a double strike there, or a rare planchet composition could be the difference between an everyday coin and one worth far more than its face value ever suggested. And this is where the drama deepens. Imagine a coin so unassuming, so tucked into the backdrop of daily life, that its true value remains invisible to most eyes, until the right person looks just a little closer. Stories persist in collector circles about people who found rare coins in pocket change, jars of coins, forgotten drawers, and inherited collections. One day a lucky person checks a nickel casually, and suddenly, the coin in their hand could be worth hundreds, thousands, or more. Some collectors even talk in hushed tones about the possibility that a truly exceptional 1974 Jefferson nickel, rare, perfectly preserved, or displaying a striking anomaly, could be worth enough to transform a life. They speak of dreams of discovery, the thrill of uncovering the unexpected, and the sheer joy of holding a coin that defies the ordinary. These stories fuel the excitement around coins like this, because deep down we all love the idea that hidden treasure might be waiting in plain sight. As with any coin, the key lies not in belief alone but in careful observation. A nickel that looks ordinary at first glance can reveal astonishing detail under close inspection. Fine hairlines in Jefferson's portrait, deep contrast in the eagle's markings, pristine surfaces untouched by circulation. These high-grade survivors are rare precisely because most coins don't escape the wear and tear of daily use. Time is harsh on soft metal, and only a few coins resist its effect. The 1974 no-mint mark nickel carries a quiet beauty that modern coins often lack. Its surface, when preserved, reflects light in a way that feels both warm and alive, like it still remembers the mint where it was struck. There is a sense of patience in these coins, as if they have waited decades for someone to finally notice their worth. That sense of anticipation, of quiet hope, makes the hunt for rare examples all the more gripping. Collectors tell stories of nickels found in attic boxes, old coin collections, coin rolls, and even forgotten piggy banks. Often they are found unexpectedly, almost by accident, reminding us that treasures don't always come with maps and X's. Sometimes treasures come with history, texture, and the humble weight of a coin you once spent without thought. And when that coin is rediscovered in a moment of curiosity, the thrill is unforgettable. Even though the 1974 no-mint mark Jefferson Nickel was not intended to be a rarity, time has a way of reshaping value. What was once ordinary can become extraordinary simply because so few examples survive untouched. In the modern coin market, collectors prize not just age or metal but condition, story, and rarity. That is why, when a pristine 1974 nickel appears, it does not merely attract attention, it commands it. There is also the emotional resonance of holding something that connects you to the past. A coin like this is not just metal and design, it is a witness to decades of everyday life. It has passed from hands to hands, across counters, into machines, and back out again. It has seen change, movement, history unfolding. And yet, a rare survivor from that year can still look fresh, as though it was minted only yesterday. The possibility that a single nickel could be special, valuable, or even life-changing is part of what keeps the passion for coin collecting alive. It is the thrill of the unknown, the quiet promise placed in metal, and the idea that sometimes what the world overlooks holds the greatest secrets. When you hold a rare 1974 no-mint mark nickel in your hand, you are holding not just copper and design, but decades of stories, journeys, and quiet mystery. And so the 1974 Jefferson Nickel stands as a testament to what ordinary objects can become when viewed through the lens of time, care, and attention. A humble piece of currency becomes an artifact of possibility. A coin that might have been spent and forgotten instead waits patiently for someone to recognize, or the rarest in theory. They are often the ones that survived against all odds, that tell the richest stories, and that connect us to the past with both their rarity and their resilience. The 1974 no-mint mark Jeff Nickel is such a coin, quiet, unassuming, yet full of potential. And for the person who discovers it in exceptional condition, it can be more than just a piece of metal. It can be a reminder that history's treasures sometimes hide right before our eyes. Next coin. The story of the 1956 Jefferson Nickel begins in a period when America was rebuilding, reimagining itself, and expanding in confidence. The United States had emerged from war stronger and more determined than ever, and even the smallest coins in circulation seemed to carry a quiet sense of pride. The Jefferson Nickel of 1956, struck without any mint mark at Philadelphia, stands as a witness to that era. A simple piece of metal that quietly touched millions of hands, yet holds a hidden power that few people ever suspected. At first glance, the 1956 nickel looks ordinary, unassuming, and familiar. We see the profile of Thomas Jefferson, facing left, his expression thoughtful and composed. On the reverse side, the proud American buffalo stands firmly planted on the plains, a symbol of endurance and strength. This was not a flashy coin designed to draw attention. No, this was the everyday currency of a nation moving confidently into the mid-20th century. Yet within these unremarkable moments of circulation lies a story that, to collectors today, feels almost unbelievable. Jefferson, the man, was an explorer of ideas, a thinker who shaped a nation through intellect and courage. To have his image on the nickel was no accident. It was a tribute to his role in shaping American identity. In 1956, that legacy was still alive in homes, schools, and civic buildings across the country. Children learned about him, storytellers told his tales, and everyday commerce passed his portrait from pocket to pocket. This shared experience helped give the coin its deep emotional resonance. Back at the Philadelphia Mint, presses hummed and metal discs transformed into nickels by the thousands. There was no mint mark because at that time Philadelphia coins did not carry one. But that anonymity somehow adds a layer of mystery to the 1956 issue. The absence of a mint mark means that every coin shares a singular identity, a unified story of origin. That story becomes critical when collectors look back decades later and begin to see certain coins rise above the ordinary in condition, quality, or even error characteristics. Almost all 1956 nickels were struck for circulation. They were not intended to be cherished or collected. They were tools of transaction, used to pay for groceries, soda, bus rides, and streetcar tickets. Countless numbers were worn down by time, scratched by keys, and buffed by the rough surfaces of pockets and coin jars. That widespread use meant that only a tiny fraction of these nickels survived in outstanding condition. And it's those survivors, those once-in-a-million gems, that now occupy the highest rungs of the collector's ladder. Imagine the thrill of discovering a pristine 1956 nickel, untouched, brilliant, and shining with a copper-nickel glow that looks almost unreal. It's a little like stepping into a time machine. You hold it, and suddenly you can feel the decades it has lived through. You sense the hands that handled it, the transactions it witnessed, and the history it absorbed silently. That feeling of touching living history is part of what makes the coin so compelling. But what truly grabs the imagination is the possibility that among these ordinary cent pieces, there may exist extraordinary survivors. Coins with minting errors, unusual strikes, or remarkable surfaces that elevate them far beyond their small face value. A slight misalignment in the die, an unexpected strike pattern, or a planchet variation can make a seemingly modest nickel suddenly priceless, because it represents something unique, something that escaped the rigid uniformity of mass production. In the world of coin collecting, the 1956 Jefferson Nickel sits in that fascinating space between common and rare, predictable yet full of potential surprise. Collectors today search through rolls, collections, and inherited jars with the hope, yes, the hope, that something unimaginable might be hiding in plain sight. And that hope, even more than the metal itself, is what fuels the passion behind every search for rare nickels like the 1956. Some numismatists describe the most exceptional examples as having a magnetic presence. A coin that seems to glow with an inner light, a coin that stands out before you even look closely at its details. These are coins with life, with energy, with a certain quiet brilliance that defies their humble denomination. To see such a coin is not just to appreciate metal and strike, it is to experience a moment of surprise, delight, and sometimes disbelief. Stories abound among collectors about the moment when someone finally recognizes such a treasure. A person reaches into an old coin folder and lifts out a nickel that still gleams like new. Others describe finding remarkable coins in jars passed down through generations, untouched since the 1960s or earlier. For a moment, everything stops. The finder sees that something ordinary has become extraordinary. And in that breathless moment, possibilities open up. Because the reality of the coin market is this: the rarest specimens, the ones with perfect surfaces and extraordinary detail, can fetch prices that soar far above ordinary expectations. A handful of 1,956 nickels in top condition have become headline pieces. They are the coins that get whispered about in auctions, discussed in hushed tones at collector conventions, and photographed with reverence. These are the coins that make someone stop and wonder if the next coin they examine might be their own ticket to a life-changing find. Yet the true value of a coin like this is not simply measured in dollars or bids. It is measured in the story it tells, the connections it carries, and the emotion it evokes. Every scratch on a worn old nickel speaks of a world that has passed. And every flawlessly preserved 1956 nickel speaks of survival, of quiet resistance to time's relentless march. Collectors prize these survivors not just for what they are worth, but for what they represent, a tangible connection to a moment long gone, yet still felt. And even though most 1956 nickels are not rare, the dream of finding one that is exceptional drives countless enthusiasts to look closer at every roll, every change pocket, every inherited pile of coins. Because what makes numismatics so compelling is that history does not always reveal its treasures where we expect. Sometimes it hides them in the most everyday places. The loose change in your cup holder, the bottom of an old wallet, the forgotten coins in a drawer. As more time passes, the number of truly brilliant 1956 Jefferson Nickels continues to shrink. Circulation takes its toll on countless pieces, leaving only a precious few that still catch the eye with fiery luster and unblemished surfaces. That scarcity, paired with growing appreciation for the coin's place in history, gradually increases demand among serious collectors and investors alike. What was once pocket change becomes a collectible relic. In the end, the 1956 Jefferson Nickel stands as a testament to persistence, both in the life of the coin and in the quest of the collector. It reminds us that value is not always obvious, that treasures can hide under layers of familiarity, and that sometimes the smallest objects hold the greatest stories. For the person who discovers an extraordinary example, a coin untouched by time, shining with breathtaking detail, it is more than metal. It is a connection to history, a piece of art, and for some lucky few, a life-changing treasure waiting to be recognized. Next coin. The story of the 1954 no-mint mark Jefferson Nickel begins in the quiet cadence of post-war America. A nation finding its footing after global conflict, rebuilding hopes, and forging forward into a brighter future. In the midst of that era, the United States Mint quietly struck countless nickels that would be spent and forgotten in the everyday rush of life. But among those ordinary coins lay the potential for the extraordinary. The 1954 nickel, unassuming and humble, would one day become a symbol of hidden treasure, waiting for eyes keen enough to see its rarity and power. Jefferson had already become a beloved face on coinage by that year, a thoughtful, calm presence watching over the ebb and flow of American commerce. Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, had shaped a young nation with big ideas about freedom, exploration, and optimism. In 1954, that legacy had matured, and his portrait on the nickel was a familiar sight, a quiet reminder of what sustained the Republic through challenge and change. The Philadelphia Mint, at that time producing coins without mint marks, struck millions of these nickels with astonishing regularity. There was no grand announcement, no special ceremony. Just steady machinery, disciplined technicians, and a nation that expected coins to come and coins to go. The 1954 Jefferson Nickel was meant to be ordinary, to be spent, to be pocketed without notice. Yet it was precisely that ordinariness that allowed its hidden potential to be born. Most of the 1954 nickels were spent immediately, paying for milk, newspapers, movie tickets, and daily needs. They vanished from pocket change into purses, cash registers, and coin jars. Wear and tear erased crisp details over time, and the coins became simple remnants of everyday America. But what fate overlooks, collectors sometimes discover. And what looks common to most eyes can be priceless in the right hands. Decades later, coins from this era began to be examined not for what they cost at face value, but for what they represented in survival, condition, and rarity. Some 1954 nickels escaped the wear of circulation entirely. Some were tucked away in collections, saved by someone who intuitively knew they were holding something special, even if they didn't know exactly why. These untouched survivors began to captivate numismatists, those passionate about coins and their stories. What makes the 1954 nickel exciting is not just its age, but the incredible rarity of high-grade examples. A coin that left the mint over 60 years ago and still retains its original luster, sharp details, and crisp strike is almost miraculous. When one of these extraordinary pieces surfaces today, it's like finding a time capsule, a small metal portal to a moment long past, preserved perfectly through the decades. Collectors often describe a pristine 1954 Jefferson Nickel as alive, a small object with energy, depth, and a brightness that seems impossible given its age. The copper-nickel alloy gleams with a warmth that tells of careful preservation, a life untouched by repeated use. These are not everyday coins. They are survivors, rare specimens that speak to a life most coins never lived. Beyond high-grade examples, there is another layer of fascination: the possibilities of minting anomalies. In years like 1954, when coins were struck by the millions, oddities sometimes slipped through the presses. Slightly off-center strikes, doubled die impressions, subtle planchet variations. These dramatic deviations are not simply mistakes. They are the hidden keys that transform a piece of pocket change into a stunning collector's gem. Imagine examining a roll of nickels and finding one that seems just a little brighter, a little sharper, a little more alive than the rest. The hairlines on Jefferson's portrait stand with crisp clarity. The eagle's feathers on the reverse appear bold and unsoftened by time. The coin still carries original mint brilliance. That moment of realization, that flicker of recognition, is the thrill that draws collectors back to coin boards, drawers, and old collections year after year. The emotional resonance of this coin goes beyond metal and surface sheen. A 1954 nickel, when held in its best condition, serves as a tangible link to the past, a reminder that everyday objects can carry deep meaning when viewed through the lens of time. It is not merely copper and nickel. It is a symbol of continuity, survival, and the unexpected beauty found in small things. Rare coins like top-grade 1954 nickels do not reveal their full power instantly. They wait quietly, often hidden in change jars or inherited collections that haven't been touched in decades. Only when someone with knowledge, care, and curiosity brings them to light do they reveal their astonishing potential. And that is why, even though the coin was produced in the millions, only the rarest examples command awe and value. In the modern coin market, supply and demand dance in a delicate balance. Ordinary circulated 1954 nickels are common, but the untouched, spectacular survivors are vanishingly rare. As fewer pristine examples remain with each passing year, the value of those that do survive climbs steadily higher. Some pieces have fetched prices that reflect not only rarity, but the emotional and historical weight they carry. There is also the dream, a dream shared by collectors and treasure hunters alike, that somewhere in a forgotten jar or an old box of coins, a perfect 1954 nickel waits silently. A coin that could transform a life, that could shift someone's financial horizon, that could spark the kind of excitement only true rarity can bring. The idea that a single small coin can hold so much potential is part of what keeps collectors searching. Of course, not every old nickel is a treasure. Most are everyday pieces of history with worn surfaces and stories only they could tell. But the possibility, just the possibility, that one might find a spotless, brilliant, astonishing 1954 nickel is what fuels passion and ignites dreams. In a world where so much value seems hidden or lost, the coin reminds us that treasure can sometimes be found in the most modest places. And perhaps that is the most powerful lesson of all. The 1954 Jefferson Nickel teaches us to look closely, to value the small details, and to understand that worth is not always obvious at first glance. Sometimes, the greatest treasures are the ones we overlook every day, waiting patiently for someone with a curious eye to notice them at last. In the end, the 1954 no-mint mark Jefferson Nickel is more than a coin. It is a symbol of possibility, a sliver of American life frozen in metal, and for those wise and lucky enough to discover an exceptional example, it can become a reminder that even the smallest objects can hold the greatest wonders, if we only take the time to look. Next coin. The story of the 1995 D. Jefferson Nickel begins in an era when America was closing out the 20th century with a blend of confidence and nostalgia. The Cold War had ended, technology was racing forward, and the simple act of spending change felt like a connection to a world that was still beautifully tangible. The Jefferson Nickel, modest, everyday, unpretentious, was part of that shared experience. Few imagined that a coin struck quietly with a small D mint mark could one day become a symbol of hidden possibility, a tiny piece of metal capable of captivating collectors and igniting wild dreams of fortune. Thomas Jefferson's profile on the obverse of the 1995 nickel carries a calm resilience fitting for a coin that bridged centuries. Jefferson lived in an age of revolution, enlightenment, and vision, qualities that resonate with collectors who search not merely for value, but for meaning. In 1995, society was once again in transition, standing at the edge of the digital age while still rooted in the tactile world of physical currency. In those clinks and clatters of wallet change, the nickel reminded everyday Americans of stories from the past even as the future rushed in. The Denver Mint, designated by its familiar D mint mark, churned out millions of these 5-cent pieces that year. Philadelphia, known for its heavy volume, operated without a mint mark, but Denver's identity became branded on each coin. That tiny letter beneath the date tells a story of origin, place, and craftsmanship, a quiet signature that sets coin collectors' hearts racing when they spot it on a rare survivor. At the time, No one expected 1995 nickels to become prized treasures. They were pocket change, means of everyday trade, simple currency exchanged for everything from soda to stamps. But coins bear witness, and over time they record not only economic transactions, but the story of a nation in motion. The 1995 D nickel stands at a crossroads of history. Too recent to be antique, yet old enough to hold rarity born of survival. Most 1995 D nickels spent their lives in circulation. They jangled in cash registers, fell into couch cushions, lay forgotten in piggy banks, or turned up years later in loose change. Years of use softened their surfaces, smoothed their edges, and dulled their original luster. But time also created opportunity. Because so many were handled, only a tiny fraction survived in exceptional condition. And that scarcity is where real value begins. Collectors speak of survivors when they talk about coins like this. A survivor is not just an old coin. It is one that emerged from decades of wear with its beauty intact. When a 1995 D nickel still shows sharp details, full mint luster, and a mirror-like surface, it is extraordinary. It feels, in the hands, like a small time machine, a moment of the past untarnished by the years that followed. In the coin world, details matter. The tiniest difference in strike quality or surface preservation can transform a modest piece into something remarkable. A softly struck coin is common. A perfectly struck one is rare. And when that perfectly struck example comes from a year like 1995, when coins were made by the millions, its survival becomes a whisper of fate, a twist of chance that feels almost miraculous. There are also rumors, the kind that populate collector circles with a mix of skepticism and excitement, about unusual planchet variations, minting anomalies, and off-center strikes. When a coin like the 1995 D shows something unexpected, a slight shift in the design, a die crack, an unusual flourish of metal, that variation instantly becomes a point of fascination. These missteps from the minting process, once overlooked, now fuel dreams of discovery. Imagine, for a moment, finding an untouched 1995 D nickel hidden in the depths of an old coin collection. A coin that looks almost new, crisp in detail, glowing in copper color. That moment of realization, when someone sees this ordinary-looking nickel and then understands its rarity and potential value, is the thrill that keeps collectors combing through drawers, boxes, and jars with unwavering curiosity. In the world of coin collecting, value is not born from age alone. It is born from scarcity, condition, story, and the emotional connection people feel to the objects they collect. A 1995 D nickel in pristine condition carries all of these qualities. Its rarity makes it desirable. Its story makes it meaningful. And its condition makes it powerful in a way that transcends mere metal. Over time, the market has matured, and people have come to appreciate not just the oldest or most ancient coins, but the rare survivors of more recent mint years. The 1995 D nickel sits at a fascinating junction, a coin from an era still within living memory, yet old enough that its finest specimens are few and far between. That gap between common circulation examples and rare mint state survivors is what fuels the loop of collector desire. Many people still find these coins in change and spend them without a second thought. And that reality is part of what makes the dream of discovery so powerful. The idea that someone somewhere could unknowingly possess a rare high-grade 1995 D nickel, a coin that might one day fetch staggering prices, gives the hunt a romantic edge. It is the coin equivalent of a hidden treasure in a familiar room. Collectors often talk about the moment of truth, when a coin is cleaned, graded, and revealed to be far more valuable than anyone expected. Those moments are the coin market's versions of lightning strikes. Rare, thrilling, and unforgettable. A 1995 D nickel that achieves this level of recognition can turn casual curiosity into life-changing fortune. It is the dream that keeps collectors searching. What makes this coin emotionally resonant is not just the possibility of wealth, but also the sense of connection it offers to the past. Coins like the 1995 D nickel remind us that everyday objects can carry stories, memories, and hidden potential. They teach us to look closer, to value patience, and to recognize that not everything valuable announces itself loudly. Some things wait quietly, waiting to be understood. In the end, the 1995 D Jefferson Nickel stands as a symbol of possibility. It shows us that even something so small, so easily overlooked, can contain a great story, a legacy of design, and the potential for immense value when discovered in the right condition. It is a reminder that history rewards those who pay attention and that sometimes the most remarkable treasures come in the most familiar forms. For the person who finds a stunning example, sharp, brilliant, and untouched by time, the journey from ordinary to extraordinary can begin with a single glance. And for them, this humble nickel could indeed be the moment that changes everything.